Hi, this is Patty Hodge, and this is Dr. Nurses Rock. And this video is part of a series that we're doing on grief throughout the month of April this year. And our very special guest today is Amy Frost, and I'm going to read her bio to you. So give me one sec here. Amy Frost, MBA and MA Spiritual Psychology, has a lighthearted, holistic approach to support individuals, teams, and organizations in achieving work-life harmony. Amy utilizes intention-based, resilient-focused, simple, real-time tools and experiences to stay in the game and help others to do that too. It's great. She is highly experienced, an award-winning facilitator, educator, trainer, speaker, and humanitarian with extensive expertise in career development, leadership, and life support. Amy is all about practical skills to build resilience, clarity, and calm, all while having fun and creating spaces for healing. We'll laugh, breathe, tap, and take the next step forward together. And Amy is an accidental grief expert. She lost her dad to a heart attack when she was 27, her husband in Desert Storm, several close friends to illness, and supports people in grief in their lives and work through all the work she does. What she has learned since the mass shooting in Las Vegas on October 1st, 2017, that the key to healing has been through creating circles of light where individuals can feel safe and heal. Welcome to Amy Frost.
Such an honor to be here. This is such important work you're doing. Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
I'm so happy that you're here, and thank you
Oh.
for contributing to this project. So, Amy, you're so hard to track down.
But
You're a
once you got me for life. I'm just warning you.
you're a very busy lady,
Yeah, I
and you're
am.
doing good all over the world. But we need to focus today's topic a little bit for people on grief, focus right in there, and tell us what you want to tell us about grief today.
So for me, again, I love the term accidental, grief. I didn't plan on being an expert on this, and nor do I think I am. I'm just somebody who's been trying to figure it out. I My passion's always been in the workplace. And I mean forever. And so getting my bachelor's in business and MBA in business. And I had that all figured out, and I had this amazing career. And again, lost my dad when I was 27. I was able to be with him with my career for a bit, and then he was gone, and that kind of blew up my life. Who am I? Who am I? Who am I? And then my husband Tom, when I was 35, died in Desert Storm. And everything about my career, everything about my life is like, who cares? Who cares? And so it was really, and the reason I got a master's in spiritual psychology, I like, it's nice to have the degree and I really appreciated the work, but I was burning out counselors because they didn't know what to do with me. And what ended up happening is I'm counseling the counselors and I'm paying them. And I was like, that's not working for me.
I
That
get
is not
that.
right. And
I,
so,
yeah,
yeah, right. And he's like, and all I'm sure I look forward to looking at your entire series. But the stuff, oh, you're young, you'll get married again, like, blah, God bless them. But they just don't know. They just don't know. And so for me, that was really making sense of that and in other griefs. And I w- I was 21 years with the federal government, and then they shut our base down. So there was that grief too. And so that's what really propelled me. I got money to go to get the second master's. How about that? So, yeah, so it's like, yeah, so it's like divinely driven. I really believe that. And when you and I were having our discussion, it was like there's so many ways to talk about grief. And what really came to me, this was last year or the year before, a good friend of mine has a yearly conference, and she said to me, I want you to talk about the circles of light that you create. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then she started talking about it, and then I realized, oh my gosh, I do create these. I mean, it's just who I am, it's just what I do, and how pivotal they are to be who am I facing our grief and doing something about it. So I have a quote from Thich Nhat Hanh that I want to read that really helped bring that together for me.
Sure.
But one of the things, and so I can, depending on what day you see me and what I'm doing, I look at the MBA or the whatever person you need me to feel safe to be. But what I've discovered, how I help people to step into grief, to do the work. Most people are not going to go to counseling. Most people are not going to go to church.
Exactly.
Most people are not going to go to a support group, but most people have to work. And so I look like a career development expert. And so I'll, work with them on their career, right? But I also throw in life. And okay, what about your life? So most people have never had an experience of somebody listening to them and asking them questions, right? That really matter.
Right.
And so, what I discovered in doing career work and running career circles, that I was providing a space for them to have a good experience. And I was at cracking eggs. Then I was like, I know where my work stops. I don't go deep with people. I give them tools. I help them go to the next place. And so I know many, many people then went forward to do grief work.
What a gift. That's an amazing gift. And I'm going to say something here that I haven't said publicly before, and um, when we were facing this death, I had a pastor actually say that he was one of seven children and his mother died and his father just went to work the next day. And I was thinking to myself, well, I'm hoping he's not expecting that to happen in this situation because it's not really the best thing to happen. But this is what does go on. People have a loss. The day Nana died, I had to call work and say, not coming in today, but I'll be in right after the funeral. And then what? Who's going to be there? Just do your work.
And what I found, and I love that we can, have this conversation, is as soon as the casserole bowls are cleaned, you're supposed to be better.
That's it. Yeah,
And you haven't even started. You probably ain't even going to start until a year later because you're
exactly.
doing the stuff, you're making the stuff happen. It's like, and you don't really believe it. At least I didn't. And I think that's true for most people, right? Geez, my dad died, a long time ago. And there's still moments when we have a family flower shop. And when I'm there with my sister, she now owns it. I keep expecting him to walk in the door.
Yeah.
It's like, and I do feel him there, and I
In
know he is.
some, in some
He's
dimension, he has
punking us.
work.
I know he is punking us. So there is, so he is there. But there's and again, every person's experience is different, and I think that's what's so important is to honor that.
Yeah.
He's like it's different, and there's moments where I'm just fine with losses I've had, and there's other times where I'm not, like it happened 30 seconds ago, right? And just honoring that, and why is that happening?
So when you first approach people or when they come to you, how does that work? You're meeting them in a work situation
A
and
lot of times there's, in different venues, and over time I've done things differently. I'm at a different point in my career right now. I worked with the Career Institute, and we would go into organizations. We do a monthly workshop on whatever the topic, communication or whatever, and then there are several career counselors. And then what we would do is they would make appointments, and we would either meet with them in person, half an hour, only half an hour, but you can do a lot in half an hour,
yes,
in person or on Zoom or whatever. And then, really, and let me tell you, they were telling me things, right? And I just left a space. I just left a space. I just left a space. And I think I knew this, but in doing that and a lot of that, I realized, oh wow, this is what's really happening. They're opening up, they're looking at who they really are, which they never had before. Again, I'm asking questions people don't ask, under the guise of career development, which
exactly.
was safe. And
Yes.
HR brought us in, so that was safe, right? So that, and then I've run a lot of groups. I did a lot of work in cancer support groups. And for me, I really struggled. My grandmother, they gave her 6 months to live. I was 19, And we really didn't talk about cancer very much. They didn't say the C word, you know. And so I really didn't get the support I needed to deal with that. And everything will be fine, everything fine. And then no, it wasn't fine. And so I did a lot of work in the City of Hope and other places. And people go there for a miracle. Yay. But when you're going for a miracle, well, not everybody get one, but that's not true. I think everybody does. Some people get it in a different way than we expected,
That's right.
you know? Right. Yes. And thank you for hearing that because a lot of people are like, but I was part of the transition program and I would help people, right? And a lot of my focus was the caregivers. And how do they support themselves is they're supporting their family member. Then it was great, but there was like hope and it's gonna happen. And yes, and then they're gone.
Yeah.
And so they never had any time to prepare for that. So for me, it's like that balance. Yes, we want to be hopeful, but there's also we have to deal with it. We have to deal with it. So in doing workshops there, being available to people when they needed to talk, so I was, running, with different programs doing that. And then now I'm at the phase of my life where I like to say I do what I want with whom I want when I want.
I love that.
And
I'm in that club too.
I perceive you to be there too, right? We've worked really hard to get here, right?
Exactly that. Listen, I think you're a walking miracle yourself.
Mm.
And you have done so many different things in communities. I can't even list them in this particular video. We're going to have like 12 more to list all the things that you've done. But we did talk a little bit before we came on the air here today about Katrina.
Which is so interesting because I hadn't forgotten, but it was kind of out of my consciousness. And I had a conversation with Dr. Lynn Joseph. Hi, Lynn. And so I want to read this quote that really, and I'm really getting strongly that it's about community,
Yes.
and community is what's going to get you to where you individually need to go. And kind of how I look at it, I work with a group called Flower for Living Wellness Community. And for us, it's like we're in a big community garden and we each have our own plot.
Love that.
Isn't that nice? And then so it's about, I mean, you're in your plot, I'm in mine, but how do we really support each other? So I love this quote. It is possible that the next Buddha will not take the form of an individual. The next Buddha may take the form of a community practicing understanding and loving kindness, a community practicing mindful living. This may be the most important thing we can do for the Earth's survival. That's Thich Nhat Hanh.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful.
Dr. Lynn and I, oh, this is so crazy. I'm going to just completely go for it, So are you ready?
Go
So
ahead.
I'm a very logical person and I have lots of, legit credentials. So I'm at and I've always been part of creating events and that is just, my thing. So I'm at the Family Flower Shop and my sister Robin and Dr. Lynn are doing healings for each other. That's how I met Lynn. And the PhDs, clinical psychologist, and so I was creating this really big de-stress and fun day for the Global Society of Female Executives or something like that. I was part of that. This is a couple, 1,000 years ago. And I was, getting the keynotes and presenting. I mean, it was a big thing. I mean, Claremont McKenna College gave us a whole building. And so I looked at Lynn and I said, would you be one of the keynotes? And she said, yes. And I'm driving home and I'm like, I have no idea what she does. I don't know her credentials. I don't know nothing. And I kind of find out, she was perfect for it. She talked about creativity and, healing and all that. So that started that relationship. And then I supported her in creating her book, and we created this 5-day program together. And I mean, it was really beautiful, really looking at the head and the heart and how do you, and job loss, job transition has a lot of grief
It
that we
absolutely
don't
does.
talk about.
Yeah, we need to talk about all the kinds of grief that people are experiencing. It's not just about death, it's about any kind of loss. And you lose your home, you lose your job, you lose your spouse,
Pets.
you're in a divorce, you have a whole lot of grief.
Well, and you get married.
Right.
Yay. But now I can't date other people. Well, I
Let's
probably should.
hope.
Right. But there's grief hidden all over the
All
place.
over. Yeah.
Right? That would just, yeah. So Yeah, so we were working together, Dr. Lynn and I, running these groups and supporting people, and yeah, a lot of grief was part of that. And then we got a call a few months after Katrina had happened to go to Hotel Monteleone and work with all the employees. And we were there for a week. And every day, Monday through Friday, in the morning, we would have, and these people never talked about this. They didn't talk, they came back to work, if they could. And they had a psychologist that was working with the employees, which was great. But a lot of times people again are not going to do that unless, I mean, they're really in crisis or they did some, whatever, they cut themselves in the kitchen and now we have, I mean, there's, unless something really crazy happens, they're probably not going to go get help. But it was mandatory that everybody go to our things, which is always fun. I don't know about your experience, but when they make them come to your thing, but that's okay. So in the morning, we would talk about their grief and do, visualizations and drawings and, let things spare. I mean, we had a whole, room full of people. And part of my job was to be watching everybody. And if somebody was going to fall out, the psychologist was in another room. And if I knew it looks like somebody was about to fall out or really needed some individual care, I would hand walk them to her. And we didn't lose anybody. I mean, it was a whole week of a lot of people. And then in the afternoon, we had lunch and, Scooby-Doo. We're moving past that part. Now, what could be possible? What could that look like? And what are some small steps that you can do? And it was, oh my God, the stories that we heard and on both sides of it. And I really love that. Okay, let's be, they say, right, you can't heal what you don't feel. To really, right. And I don't believe in digging up the graveyard. It's like whatever you need to work is going to come right for you.
Exactly. Well, yep.
So, I mean, it was so beautiful. I mean, Lynn and I just, oh my gosh, it was so profound and such an amazing thing. And it really was they were healing in groups. And Lynn and I were healing each other, which we didn't really think about. And I don't know that she and I had really talked about because, of course, when something happens, it looks like I'm grieving about this thing. And I hope, yay, I hope you are. But it's all those other things you didn't heal that are coming forward too.
That's right. Yeah. I did in the first video in this series, I read a story that I had written for medium.com. And in there, the sentence that a lot of people resonated with was all the thing about new grief is that it dredges up all the old. And so if we're not ready to address grief, it catches up with us and it catches up with us in a way that can knock us off our feet. It'll affect us in our health, it'll affect our mental health, it affects our bodies. So all this work that you have done and are doing in real time with people that are really struggling and suffering with major losses, that's such a gift to them and such a gift to the rest of us because these are people that can still be part of a community, can still function.
The
And
ripples, the
yeah,
ripples, the ripples.
it never stops. It's all this good stuff that just keeps going out into the world. So I just appreciate you a million times over, Amy Frost.
And part of what I want to say, hopefully, that we will have, I like to say, hope providers
Yes,
that will be part of this. And one of the things that I've been experiencing, especially in the last few years, is that the hope providers are going down. That they've been taking care of everybody, taking care of everybody, taking care of everybody, and there's grief that comes with that,
absolutely.
right? And, and I hate. I'm going to say this because we talk about secondary post-traumatic stress, but there's also secondary grief too. But to me, it doesn't feel secondary, right? I'm supporting you on your grief,
Right.
and I'm having not only my own grief, but the grief of I can't fix this for you,
Yes.
right? And we're
Well,
not talking about that
yeah.
either.
The psychiatrist that you'll see in this series just was talking about how even the doctors have a hard, any therapist that tries to work with someone in grief has to deal with their own grief. Something will arise, and we have to be able to handle that. So again, being mindful, everyone is walking around with some measure of grief. I think we can't get out of this world unscathed,
No,
apparently.
no, and again, and not making it, it isn't a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It is, and then of course the old adage, the more you love, the more, that you're going to have pain letting go.
Yeah.
And I do believe that. And for me, you know what? I'm willing to pay that price.
Well,
I am
yeah. I mean,
willing
it
to
makes
pay
life
that
worth
price.
living to love people as deeply
All
as we
right, or
possibly
why have a
can.
plant? Why have an animal?
That's true. Have you been in my house? You've been in my living room, haven't
It's like, they're going, they're going. And right, how can I be present? And I mean, yeah, lots of examples of what we're talking about, but the one at the moment that I really want to share, and one of the things I want to ignite in you, whoever is watching this, is you can create these. You probably already are. And so I'm the queen of self-care. Not that I do it, but I write about it and I'm an expert and they call me in to talk about it. I'm really good at talking about it. I'm getting better at doing it. But so the head of the North Las Vegas Vet and Community Center, I knew him. He took over the center about 3 years ago. And he asked me to kind I try to follow guidance and what is it that I'm to do. And again, I only work with people that I value me and I value them and I feel like I'm doing work that matters. So he said, "Would you come in and talk to the women vet group about self-care?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, I can do that." So, I led that group and it was fabulous. And we had a sponsor bring in lunch and it was really wonderful. So I'm walking out and he says, "Well, what do you think that they should do next month?" And I said, "Well, in talking to them, they said they don't really know how to have friendships." And I said, "So you should talk to that." He said, "Can you do that?" Yeah. I said, "Can you do that at this date?" Sure. So, so I come back next month and then I'm walking out again. And he said, what do you think they need now? I said, boundaries. They need to look at boundaries. And then one of the people in the group said, "Are you running this group?" And I said, "Am I running this group?" And he said, "As long as you want yes, please." That was 3 years ago. And it just fills my soul. I would say I get paid in, spiritually because
Yes.
I don't accept money for it. It's my give back. And and what we do is we throw all the boys out. Yeah, but it was for women vets. And so I went to the director and I said, "Yes, I would be honored to do this. And I can only do this if it's for women vets, spouses, adult children, and community supporters. Otherwise, we're not helping anybody." And he said, "Yes." And I'm like, "I'm in." But things that have happened in this group, we had it yesterday and and there's not always the same people and I don't run it like a support group or anything like that. This is not counseling. I have different topics. Yesterday, I talked about moving forward naturally and talk about how we use nature, right, for healing and how nature's the seasons and all that. And oh my goodness, it was so beautiful. The conversations that came up, and there was one veteran who'd not come, and they come from the VA, they're recs over here in all different organizations, and she just like started out with a, "I hate the military, and I don't want to get them out of the house. I have PTSD," and I'm like, "Great, wonderful." So I'm doing the mountain visualization and we're doing all kinds of fun things. I had scratch paper. Remember when we called it scratch paper? No, it was
I call it
and I had
scribble paper recently.
well, it's your recycle paper. So it's
Yeah.
like, I'm not going to throw it away. So, and I have markers all over that have the scents. And oh my God, we had like three artists, real artists, yesterday. So we were all freaked out because we didn't want them judging us. But anyway, so I had color. What is the garden you want to have in your life? And what does it look like now? And notice I said, "What do you want it?" Because I want to get them hopeful and bold up. And then what does it look like now? Then the grief, right, starts coming out. But this woman who was like, then all of a sudden she just started talking. I couldn't get her to stop. I was like, and the rest of us are looking, and she'd never been there before. We're stunned. But again, it was this, we're just having fun. We're coloring. We're being the mountain. Oh, you're gonna love this. So, a good friend of mine, she was enlisted. My husband ran the ROTC at University of Nevada, Las Vegas. She was one of his cadets 26 years ago. And so she calls me her godmother. She's my goddaughter. And she ended up, she was a combat vet and had a traumatic brain injury. So she was medically retired and then worked for the U.S. Marshals. And because of everything going on right now, was able to retire again. And right after I mean, logistics and master's degree and all that, right? And so, spending time with her, having fun, having her come to the group. When she signed up for the military when she was 18, she wanted to be a cook, but they needed logistics. So now, several years later, she's going to school to become a chef.
Good for her.
And I know it was because she came, right? She shared and because she could have got all kinds of jobs and didn't really have to, but she needed to be doing something. The fact she's doing that. And then right after she retired and she was going through the grief, we were talking, what could you do? And this logical, amazing woman went to a crystal shop and bought 8 crystal bowls, and that ain't cheap, right? And I'm like, who are you? And she said, I don't know. And I'm like, okay, well, let's right past all the grief,
We're
experiment
finding
and
out.
play.
Yeah,
So
we're finding.
yesterday, so this was, I don't know, this you would have 8 months ago, let's say. So now she's in school and she's loving it and she's mentoring young women. And she walked in with 2 of her crystal bowls. And first I was like, do you have baked goods in there? It's like, what's it? She said, no, my bowl. I'm like, okay. And I said, and she's never publicly done this. I mean, it's only at home by herself. She's not even done it with me. And so I said, so we do a session and then we break and they grab lunch and they come back. And I said, how do you feel about you being the thing to bring them back in? And she said, yes. And I'm like, I was shocked, honestly. So she's doing that. I'm doing the mountain meditation, John Kabat-Zinn's mindfulness meditation, and they were eating it up with a spoon. I was like, and it was so sweet because when she was walking out, I mean, I've known her a long time. We have really great conversations. And she said, when I was thinking, I was walking out of the house to come, I thought, oh, my crystal bowls wanted to come with me. But I thought, oh my God, Amy will be mad at me. And she said, no, she won't. She'll be excited for me. And I was like, oh, that made me so happy. Because that voice in her head, it wasn't me.
Yeah, of
She
course.
that voice in her head saying, oh no. But she immediately cleared it.
It occurs to me that we listen to people's hearts, and once their heart is heard, it allows them to listen to themselves in a more peaceful way. So, I'm so happy that you came to talk to me today. I'm so happy. You're going to have to come back. You're going to have to move
I would
again.
be honored
And
to, and this is just an ongoing process, right?
yes,
It's
it
like,
is.
and really identifying what is grief for me, what does grief look like, what is a safe space for me to do this, and maybe it's cooking, maybe it's a book club, maybe
Absolutely.
and it is grief counseling isn't for everybody, or maybe it is after you've done the other work.
Right. Right.
But I don't care what door you come in, but come in some door.
That's it. And we're hoping that this kind of thing of just talking about the word, I never hear the word grief in everyday conversation. People are not walking around discussing this, saying, oh, wow, I had this thing happen. People feel like they have to avoid other people that they think are grieving. And so that's why we're doing this conversation. We're putting this out there into the world. This is something that happens to everyone. It's something that everybody has to deal with at some point or another. Pay attention to the fact that everybody around you has some sort of pain that they're carrying, and let's walk more gently with each other
And gentle with ourselves.
and gentle with ourselves.
So that it's okay for me not to run back to work. It's
Exactly.
okay for me to say, I can't do this today.
Exactly. And we need to be as a society more mindful of the fact that people need more space and a little more gentleness and a little more awareness of what's going on. So that I love that work that you're doing. I think you're amazing. And you said you would come back, so I'm holding you to it.
Again, now and you're stuck with me. So that's just how it goes.
Well, I think we should end for today, but I'm just going to say bye for now.
Thank you so much. This is
Thank,
really important work. Really
thank you.
important. God, I don't care where you start, people. Start somewhere. Just
Yeah,
start.
I love that. See you again. Bye for now.